Be sure to use the code STICA at the Mega Cat Studio store to save on shipping when ordering Tanzer. Tanzer is a new game release for the Sega Genesis in February 2019. Inspired by games like Strider for the Mega Drive and Hagane for the Super Nintendo, it gained a life of its own and became its own project that feels very different from the games I just mentioned. If you've been following my channel for a while, the game might be familiar for you, as I did a live stream of an early beta build of Tanzer with the lead developer. Well, he liked the live stream so much, he even sent me a review copy of the game. Not only that, but he even told me that he reviewed the gameplay I did during the live stream several times and implemented a few changes to the level design because of how I first approached each challenge in the game. Now that's pretty awesome. I've never had direct influence in changing a video game before, so I'm glad it finally happened. What's even more awesome is that the game originally began as a Kickstarter project in May 2018 and was fully funded with roughly $15,000, with the full game receiving a physical launch less than a year later. Considering how quickly and cheaply the game was made, it's astounding how good Tanzer is. I can think of one Mega Drive developer that could stand to learn a thing or two from Tanzer's development. And to make things even better, the game was originally only going to be launched physically for Kickstarter backers. But thanks to fan demand, he joined forces with Mega Cat Studios, the same developer who did Coffee Crisis, a game which I should probably review at some point by the way, to release a physical copy of Tanzer. I should also point out that this means there are effectively two physical versions of the game out there, the Kickstarter release and the Mega Cat Studios edition. My copy was sent to me by the game's developer Michael Tillander, meaning mine is a Kickstarter release even though I didn't back the game, which was a really cool thing for Michael to do. From what I've seen though, both releases are identical except the Mega Cat Studios edition mimics the later Sega Genesis / Mega Drive releases by adding either a blue or red strip on the side and their logo. And even though Mega Cat Studios didn't send me the game, they were kind enough to supply me with a code to share with all of you, which lets you save on shipping if you order Tanzer. Considering how small my YouTube channel is, I have to say I'm pretty humbled by the support I'm getting. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to see how good the game is and whether or not it's worth picking up. And what better way to start than taking a look at its packaging. Now, as mentioned before, mine is a Kickstarter edition, but Mega Cat Studios actually handled the physical production for both versions, meaning they are exactly the same, save for a slight difference in the cover. The game comes in a PAL Sega Mega Drive style box, featuring a design inspired by early console releases. Mega Cat Studios' version lets you pick between a Sega Genesis or Mega Drive versions, though these are modeled after the late-gen official releases. Boxes are the exact same size and length as the official releases, and look good enough to be displayed on a shelf with your official games. In fact, if it weren't for the slightly altered Mega Drive logos, this could have easily passed for an official 90s release. But sadly, developers can't use the official Sega Mega Drive template due to legal reasons. I will say I'm not really a fan of the cover. The main character art is fine, but I'm not really feeling the background or the enemy design. I know this is an artist's rendition of the first level, but it just really doesn't do it for me. Not to mention, there are way better enemy and level designs in the game than the one they went with. The back of the box sports a few more noticeable differences than the front cover, as the lack of a grid and alternate logos clearly make Tanzer stand apart. There's also something a bit weird with the screenshots. They all seem to have a white filter on the top left corner, and I'm not sure why. None of my official Mega Drive releases have this, so I don't know why they went with this design choice. Inside, we find a vertical manual, which is a clear upgrade from the VCR-styled manuals of the time. It tells a little bit of the backstory, though, like the game itself, it's pretty sparse on the details. It does a good job at explaining Tanzer's rules, but I do feel it could have used some concept art to embellish it. I mean, what few screenshots there are look fine and are in high quality, but with so few pages, I feel a little more eye candy would have been nice. With that said, there are a few gameplay mechanics which aren't covered in the manual, more on that later. The inside of the box looks like an almost exact replica of the official thing, save for a few grooves on the cartridge holder and the MegaCat Studios logo. As for the cartridge, it looks really close to the real thing, although it has a small hole or groove on the left-hand side, which at this point has become a telltale sign of it being an unofficial release. One thing that worries me a little bit is how loose the PCB is on the inside. Here, take a listen for yourself. This is something that doesn't happen with official releases or even unofficial ones like Tanglewood. Speaking of Tanglewood, I'm pretty sure these came from the same factory or are at least using the same mold. Comparing the Tanzer, Pierce Solar, Brave Battle Saga, Water Margin and Tanglewood cartridges produces some interesting results. Water Margin, which was an early Pico release, is definitely the roughest one out of the group. The plastic feels coarse, with a few small bits of plastic sticking out. Pierce Solar's cartridge feels a bit softer and higher quality than Water Margin, but not quite up to the level of the other games, as the plastic still feels a little bit rough. Then we have Tanzer, Tanglewood, and a more modern Pico release like Brave Battle Saga. Visually, they're very similar, though Brave Battle Saga's sticker space is a bit wider and longer, filling the cartridge almost completely. On the back, they look nearly the same, with the exception that Pico Interactive uses different screws and has no groove for a company logo. Tanglewood features a logo for Big Evil Corporation, and Tanzer left this space blank. Additionally, these cartridges feel exactly the same to the touch, sporting a smooth, high-quality plastic that accurately mimics the official releases. It's pretty clear we're seeing some really high-quality cartridge reproductions, and Tanzer does not disappoint in this regard. Overall, I'm quite happy with the physical release, though I do wish my PCB didn't shake, but it's possible I might have drawn the short straw on this one. Booting up the game, you're presented with an intro screen which, I don't quite get it. I mean, the main character looks cool and all, and I know she's supposed to be a dancer. Yes, that's a she, by the way. But I feel the background colors and icon on the back are a bit on the odd side. Maybe it's supposed to be pushing the console's color limitations or the animation limitations, but I can't really tell. In the options menu, you can choose to slightly improve the graphics by adding gold pickup animations and making the weather effects more noticeable. The differences are pretty minimal though, and I really don't know why you'd want these turned off. And finally, you're good to go. Anyway, the game plays unlike any title for the Mega Drive I've ever seen. At first glance, it's reminiscent of Strider, which makes sense, as Strider and Hagane for the Super Nintendo were the main inspirations behind Tanzer. But those games also rely heavily on platforming, whereas Tanzer has very little of that. Yes, you'll find the occasional environmental hazards, but for the most part, you only really have to run to the right. What sets the game apart is the sheer, insane amount of enemies that are constantly being thrown at the screen. In fact, you're often so overwhelmed, and they'll fire so many shots at you, it ends up feeling like a shmup. The more I think about it, the more it feels like Tanzer is Strider if Strider were a shmup. Now, while it's true that the game is always throwing enemies at you, it's also pretty forgiving in several areas. For one thing, you can touch most enemies and they won't hurt you. Instead, it's their shots or the environmental hazards you should be concerned with. Moreover, your sword is able to dispatch most enemies in 1 or 2 hits. You'll bump into more durable enemies, but thankfully, you can just keep hacking away at them by holding the attack button. This way, your higher rate of fire should make short work of even the larger foes. Your character is also extremely fast and mobile. You always have full control of Tanzer even while in midair, and you can double or even triple jump to escape tricky situations. In fact, when you do a double or triple jump, you also attack automatically, or you can aim in any direction while jumping to attack. And if you manage to hit an enemy, you gain a new mid-air jump. This means that so long as you keep hitting enemies mid-air, you can essentially stay in the air indefinitely. The game even rewards you with bonus points at the end of the level for doing this. With that said, it's probably not a good idea to just charge your way through a level, jumping at full speed, or you'll miss enemy drops. Basically, each time you kill an enemy, they drop gold bars, which can be collected and used towards buying new upgrades for your suit at the end of each stage. And the best part, they're all persistent, meaning any upgrade you buy will stay with you until the end of the game. Upgrades include stone transmutation, which creates a slab from the ground that damages enemies, destroys projectiles, and is easily the most useful skill in the game. Fire transmutation creates a fire wave that also destroys bullets and enemies, and is my most used skill after stone transmutation. Water transmutation lets you teleport. Honestly, I never really used this one, save for a few spots where you can teleport to get extra loot. And glass transmutation fires light beams. I only ever found this one useful in very specific instances, so I never bothered much with it either. And all of these skills can be upgraded once, making them more powerful. You can also buy projectiles, which is another ability I didn't particularly make much use of. Lastly, you can buy health and save your progress, so you don't have to start over from the beginning. Though, if you turn off the console, your save is gone. So really, it's closer to a checkpoint feature. Speaking of health, you only have 1 life and 3 health bars. This means that if you get hit 3 times, it's game over. And no, you don't recover health when you beat a level or even when you defeat a boss. You can occasionally pick up health bars while playing the game, but these are rare to come by. Your best bet is to purchase health from the store. Though I should warn you, the other upgrades are pretty expensive, and you'll need any gold bars you can get, which makes getting hit even once a huge punishment, as you're suddenly confronted with a choice between spending money to recover health or try risking it without full health, but harnessing more gold for upgrades. And trust me, harnessing gold will become an obsession for you. Upgrades are so expensive that I found myself calculating the optimal paths towards harnessing as much gold as possible. Sometimes this meant memorizing which levels had the most gold, or simply by saving up as much as possible and spending as little as I can. It doesn't help that the more gold you have, the bigger the score bonus you get at the end of a level. This may not sound like much, but Tanzer is clearly designed in a way that urges players to beat their own high scores, whether by spending as little money as possible or by giving you bonus points for doing as many aerial stunts as possible. Still, my recommendation is to either buy each upgrade only once and as soon as possible and using them whenever necessary, or buy and upgrade your transmutation power and then buy the rest only once as you progress. Each level even has a pair of orbs that can only be destroyed if you remain in the air. This means when you find the first orb, you have to jump, destroy it, and then remain in the air until you find and destroy the second orb. And some of these can be really difficult to get to. Damn it! Damn it! Oh, come on! And what do you get for all your effort? Yep, you guessed it, bonus points. You're also expected to slash onto every floor, ceiling, and pillar you find, hoping to discover secret caches. In some cases, you might even stumble onto secret levels. And as you play the game, you'll occasionally find these yellow orbs. The game seems to make quite a big deal out of it when you find them, but I have no idea what they do, and this is one thing that isn't mentioned in the manual. All I do know is that it slightly changes the upgrade store when you get them. Maybe it's tied to a secret ending, but I have no idea. Then you have the boss fights. Each country is divided into several levels with a mini-boss at the end and a full-blown boss on each nation's final level. Most bosses are static and rely on both health techniques to defeat you, which is why I find the Earth transmutation power so useful. With that said, many of them have a correct way of defeating them, and it's all about finding the weakness in their pattern or having the correct power-up to take them down. But the final bosses are much more interesting and challenging, requiring a bit of maneuverability. With that said, I do think some bosses are pretty cheap if you don't have the correct power-up to take them down. Speaking of the power-ups, while I like having and upgrading them, I do wish there was an easier way to select them. Basically, you have to push start, which pauses the game and brings up a menu, which seems like a sensible design choice. The issue is that the game is so intense that pausing it to change weapons completely breaks the flow. Moreover, you run the risk of getting disoriented when you jump back into the game and getting hit because of it. Gameplay-wise, that's really it. It's a simple game, but it's so incredibly addicting. The difficulty and sheer intenseness of it all reminds me of a SHMUP or something like Contra Hardcore. A relentless experience that doesn't let up, but feels so rewarding. Graphically, the game may not seem impressive at first, as it uses a lot of faded colors and doesn't seem to be pushing any major graphical effects. That is, until you consider how many sprites are on screen. Between you, your enemies, their bullets, your sword and explosions, it really seems like the Mega Drive is being pushed to its sprite limit, and all at 60 frames per second. There are a few instances when the game suffers a bit of slowdown, but these are few and far between. I also like the simulated layers of parallax scrolling, something which the game makes heavy use of, as well as distorted backgrounds. And I just really like the art style used for backgrounds and the levels, though there are some which look pretty plain if you ask me. Moreover, I do feel the enemy designs are a bit hit or miss. Some look cool or unique, like something out of Shadow of the Beast or this boss which looks like a giant Shakan, while others look pretty lame, like this wagon enemy which is also featured on the cover, and others are just weird. I mean, a chandelier? Really? The music is all in techno style, and while it may seem like an odd choice, it really helps drive up the game's intensity, so I can't really complain there. What's cool is that the game uses both sound chips. So, while the FM synthesizer handles the sound effects and most of the music, the Master System sound chip adds more depth to the songs. In fact, let's take a look at how the game runs using the FM synthesizer or just the Master System sound chip. Overall, Tanzer is a really unique game for the Mega Drive. The art style might be off-putting for some, but the gameplay and sheer intensity overall makes for a great game that should be in anyone's Mega Drive collection. Once again, I'd like to thank the main developer Michael Tillander for donating the game and MegaCat Studios for sending a code that allows you to save on shipping when purchasing the game. I know that Michael is now working on a SHMUP, and I for one can't wait to check it out. Hey everyone, thank you for watching St1ka's Retro Corner. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. All that fun social media stuff. And if you want to support the channel, check out my Patreon, where you'll find all kinds of awesome rewards. Anyway, I hope you have a great day. Bye!